Good morning, everybody. I just want to do a little, I really didn't plan on doing a video right now, but I want to do just a short one. And these are issues I talked about. This is going to be world issues here. You know, this last few weeks, when you hear me post things and it says Russia and NATO, World War III, these things are not me. John is paranoid and John is, I might be paranoid and all that. This last few weeks, China blocked or did not give permission for one of our military ships and fleets to go through to visit Hong Kong. So China is building up in the China Sea, sort of like man-made islands, and they're building military bases on them. And in the older days, this would be considered, because it's disputed between some of our allies and all, who owns that area. But China decided, just like Russia's kind of doing, they just decided, you know, we're going to do what we feel is in our national interest. And in the old days, the U.S. would threaten, well, we can't stand for this. And if you looked at the world issues in the last few weeks, both with Russia and China and even Iran threatened to shut the Strait of Hormuz, which has to be open in order for shipping to, you need it open basically for international affairs in the Persian Gulf. And they might just shut it. But in the old days, whenever you had any one of these threats, whether Iran saying this or China saying we're going to unilaterally just begin taking over this area, the China Sea, the U.S. would normally say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then Russia's been doing flybys. Russia is also, like I said, they're going to, I'm prophesying this one, they're going to give an ultimatum to the U.S. in association with Bashar Assad, the leader of Syria, and they're going to say, now, your sorties and your fighter jets that have been flying over Syria in the last few years, not only do you not have congressional approval from your United States Congress to do this, because you never voted on it, which is true, but the heck with your United States Congress, you, U.S., are in violation of international law. And then you're going to have a showdown. They're also going to do that on the borders of Europe, where NATO countries, which we're doing a build-up, and Russia's building up on the border. Now, I don't believe it would begin as a nuclear war, but what they're going to do is begin positioning themselves, all of these countries that I mentioned, and they're going to begin not testing. This is the mistake we in the U.S. are making. We seem to make statements, our leaders and our military leaders, and even the political analysts make statements like, they would never do that because we would destroy them. Look at the ground truth, what's been going on. ISIS just killed one of our military men in Iraq. And we wanted initially to not make it look like it was one of our men that was in combat. But we basically lie. Whenever we say we don't have troops on the ground, but we have advisors, we do the same thing that we, John Kerry and others, accuse Russia of, because Russia just follows our lead. We're putting humanitarian trucks into Ukraine, and there were military trucks, and I remember John Kerry was so upset. Oh, Russia's lying, just like we do. So the ground reality is this. There is a quote nation called ISIS, the Islamic State, that the U.S. basically has not officially declared war. That's why Congress, some liberals and conservatives in Congress agree that the president at this time, Obama, has no authority to carry out what he's doing in Syria. And because of that, I believe Russia's just going to, Assad's going to get strengthened in Syria, and then they're going to give an ultimatum, because they already are saying this. They're going to go to the UN and all to argue against our next buildup. Now, if you looked at all of this, the world sees that there's an actual group called ISIS that is actually in a war with the United States, and the United States loses territory in Iraq and places, fighting back and forth, and this has been an ongoing war. Even though we in the U.S. have declared, we will destroy you, we will wipe you out, this has emboldened these other countries to say, and I do not doubt that there will begin to be, in this near future, these tests. And our NATO allies in Europe, which border with Russia, and Russia's building up troops, I have no doubt, because what we do is, I heard the president this week say, and also Ash Carter, and when Ash Carter made a recent statement, says, we neither seek a Cold War nor a hot war with Russia. For a defense secretary to publicly make those statements, and for all of these other things that Russia was doing and other countries, behind the scenes, that's where this is headed to. They see that. And publicly, it's not being said as openly as I'm saying this. So there's going to be a showdown. And it will not start as a nuclear war. It will start as Russia's doing stepped up patrols off of our coast, nuclear subs. It'll start as, now we want you, United States, out of Syria. And they'll shoot down jets. They'll say now it's a violation. We U.S., we don't want you building up on the borders, the actual borders of Russia with your NATO alliance. And when the president said, and other leaders have said, that Russia doesn't understand. Russia sees us as a threat, sees NATO as a threat, and we're not a threat. Read the writing on the wall. We were allies with Hosni Mubarak in Egypt for many, many years. Our leadership, Hillary Clinton said this, they used to sit down and have dinner with him, the leader of Egypt. And then when there was an uprising in Egypt, rightfully so, Tahrir Square, protesting police abuse is what that was. The security forces of Mubarak were very abusive. When there was an uprising, we then sided with the uprising, and I want the freedom for those people there, because the guys running Egypt now are worse than Mubarak. And we sided with the overthrow of that man, Mubarak, who we had actual political relations with for many, many years. Because public opinion in the United States changed. So when Obama or any leader of this country says, Russia is misreading NATO buildup, or building up the NATO troops along the border, but they're not, because all it would take is a possible uprising in Moscow where the citizens of Russia began protesting, which happened before. And all we would have to do is say, oh, he must go. Putin must. He sees the writing. He's got it right. We got it wrong. And we in the U.S. might sincerely believe, oh, we would never do something like that. Ask back the deposing of a world leader against popular opinion. We're doing it in Syria. Bashar Assad just got reelected. We're not. The president of Syria said, I'm willing to sit down and have talks with the opposition who the U.S. is backing. The rebel groups we are backing many of them are absolute out-and-out terrorist groups, the same terrorist groups that the leader of Turkey, Erdogan, supports. And we are backing some of those rebel groups who are absolute terrorists. The same groups we backed in Libya when Gaddafi said, the U.S., you're calling them freedom fighters and they're terrorists. We are backing up those terrorist groups. The U.S. is. Now, we were going to try to make some solutions because it's a disaster in Syria. And we said, let all these terrorist groups, quote, rebels, let them sit at the table. And Putin has actually agreed to this, who backs up Assad in Syria. And do you know, Assad agreed to it. He said, okay, we'll sit down. He said, and we will do a restructuring. But we have the rebel groups, terrorist groups in that country, have a certain demand before they sit down. And one of the demands is Assad must go. Oh, we'll sit down and have a talk, but he must go. He just got reelected by the majority of the people in Syria. And he would get reelected again. And so the reason we have an objection, the U.S., not Russia, not Assad, not the Syrian government, the reason we have an objection is we're agreeing with the terrorist rebel groups that Assad must go. That's an untenable thing that we're asking. And when we in this country begin saying, well, we got to build up all these troops along Russia's border, but we mean no harm. Maybe we mean no harm. But what I just explained to you is the political popularity in this country could call one day, yeah, Putin must go, which means we're going to destroy that country and ISIS is going to run it. That's what that means when we say things like that. So none of what Russia is doing right now is simply showboating, flexing muscle. None of it. They're serious as a heart attack, that they view us as an absolute threat to their survival. And we are, because we continue to go down those roads. That's what the history of that is. And so as I was just thinking about none of these things are a joke. And this is not a fake thing. And when I heard that political pundit on Fox News, he's kind of almost like he's not a big conservative, but when he said, oh, surely Russia, we would destroy them. Oh, would we? We said we would destroy ISIS. Yeah, but we have nuclear weapons. So do they. So part of the reason why they're in such an economic problems, besides the price of oil and all, is we hit them with sanctions. We said, we'll just cripple your entire economy. Why did we do that, John? Because they were backing up actual Russian people who used to be part of Russia before the Soviet Union broke up, who live in Ukraine. And those nationalists who live in Ukraine also had some legitimate complaints, just like some Syrians living in Syria had legitimate complaints. And some of these Russians who lived in Ukraine after Ukraine broke away from the USSR, they had legitimate complaints. Hey, you're abusing us. So in a sense, Russia went in and said, look, we're going to have to defend some of, just like we say we want to do. But we didn't want Russia to do that. So we said, if you do defend the nationalists in Syria, we're going to hit you with sanctions trying to cripple your country, which we did. And Putin has said over and over again, you talk international law, United States, and you violate it all the time. How do we? I just told you how we violate it. We have an ongoing war over a country, over Syria, and that's a violation of all international law, what we're doing there. And so how do we justify that, John? Because when Bush was president, Congress gave Bush, and of course, don't forget, Congress and what we do here is not international law, it's just U.S. law. But we even violate U.S. law, what we're doing in Syria. They gave Bush authority to go after ISIS wherever he is, wherever we find ISIS. Well, when Obama began the actions in Syria, the question in Congress was, wait a minute, you can't go and do an air war over another country unless you get congressional approval. And Obama and his lawyers used that old authority that Bush had. We can go after ISIS with, no, that gives you, so we are violating U.S. law and international law. So because of that, and because Putin just recently said they're objecting to our buildup of we're going to add so many more people there. It's the same thing in Iraq, okay? Those borders are not real borders there. ISIS has an area and Iraq's falling apart. So that's why I'm telling you, none of this is a joke. None of this is a joke. None of what Russia, China, and even Iran threatening to shut the Strait of Hormuz, none of it is a joke. They're positioning themselves, and they've gotten to a point where they're saying, we're going to have to start doing what we need to do. I'm going to do this one short because I just wanted it to be, for you to see that, for you to see the writing on the wall. There's a few verses. I wrote one down. I'm going to hang it up. Psalms 27, I just read it. Now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. And King David was a great warrior king. This is a good psalm. We'll read just a few more from here. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though a host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he will hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. When thou sayest, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not. Neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord.